I'm not the villain of this story, though for years that's how they painted me. I'm Rowan Pierce, 30, quiet by nature, relentless by necessity, and for most of my life I trained myself to take up less space, less voice at the dinner table, less opinion on holidays, less need, always less. It felt safer that way until the night I learned that shrinking doesn't protect you. It just makes you easier to erase. I grew up in Ashford Ridge, a mountain town where people wave through windshield glass and know the name of your dog before they know yours. My mother, Delilah, ran a little shop, blue-painted windows, hand-lettered signs, where lavender bundles and honey jars sat in polite rows like children at chapel. My father, Hugh, wore quiet the way other men wore expensive watches. He had a carpenter's hands and a pastor's stare, steady, measuring, gentle until it wasn't. And then there was my brother, Avery, 2 years older, gravity in human form. The town orbited him without trying. Varsity captain and youth group singer, he could fail loudly and still be called brave, while I could succeed silently and still be told to try harder. It started the way these things usually do, not with a single blow, but with a repetition of small, clean cuts. Report cards held up at dinner like courtroom exhibits. My A compared to his B with the footnote that he worked so hard, honey, as if effort had a gender. In church, people pressed my shoulder and told me I looked nice, then turned to Avery like he was a sunrise. When I got the lead in the fall play, Mom congratulated the costume designer for making something out of nothing at all. The compliments floated around me like steam, visible, warm, and impossible to hold. I learned to make myself useful. I was the one who locked the shop, who scrubbed honey stickiness off the counter at closing, who drove Mom to distributor warehouses when seasonal orders came late. If Avery forgot to pick up the hymnals, I set them out. If Dad needed a second pair of hands to hold a door while the winter wind tried to steal it, I was there. No one asked. I just filled the gap that was shaped exactly like me. When I was 22, I left town for exactly 1 year. I'd landed a marketing internship in the city, tiny apartment, bigger roaches, the kind of hustle that tasted like blood and possibility. I called home every Sunday. Mom always sounded tired. Dad asked logistical questions like he was auditing my life, savings, transit, health insurance. Avery's updates came filtered through them: new job at the outdoor gear store, new girlfriend with a laugh like photographs, new ambition that felt familiar because he'd borrowed it from whoever stood closest. On Thanksgiving, I came home with a box of bakery croissants I couldn't really afford, and Mom thanked me as if I'd brought napkins. "Don't worry, sweetie," she said, the word sweetie a small bowl placed over a candle. "City life is a phase. You'll come back to your senses." I did go back, but not because she was right. That winter, Dad slipped on ice behind the shop and broke his wrist in 2 places. He called me from the ER remote and careful, like he was trying not to scratch the furniture. "It'd be good to have you home for a bit, Rue." He only called me Rue when he felt something he didn't want anyone else to see. I hung up, closed my laptop, and bought a bus ticket after midnight. I told myself it was temporary. Temporary turned into years the way summer turns into a memory. Quietly, then all at once. I took over the shop's books, the window displays, the Instagram posts that made strangers in other states pause over photographs of cedar shelves and jars of jam with muslin caps. Sales doubled, then tripled. Customers who used to wander came to buy, came back, brought friends. Mom took naps in the afternoon and told people she "supposed the internet helps." Dad called the growth God's timing. Avery started using the words "we" and "our" in conversations about the shop, even though he never worked a full week. If I said anything, I sounded ungrateful. If I said nothing, I was. The breaking point didn't arrive with thunder. It arrived with a roast chicken, a bottle of grocery store wine, and a meeting dressed up as a family dinner. It was February, the kind that steals your breath when you open the door, and snow laced the edges of our windows like sugar. Mom had polished the good silver. Dad asked Avery to say grace. I closed my eyes and said my own, the short kind you send up like a flare. "Please let tonight be kind." Halfway through dinner, Dad cleared his throat the way he did at church when soft words carried hard blows. "We've been meeting with Pastor Joel and Mr." Callaway. It's time to plan the estate. Mom's eyes gleamed. We want the shop to stay in the family, to carry the Pierce name. Okay, I said, though it felt like a bridge over a ravine. Dad folded his napkin. Avery will take full ownership when we pass. He's the eldest, the natural leader. For you, there's a modest trust, enough to start something small. The plates clinked like teeth. I run the shop every day, I whispered. Dad nodded like it was a sweet opinion. You've been a real help. I built the sales, negotiated suppliers, doubled revenue. True, Mom said, but Avery has presence. People follow him. People buy what I create, I said, barefoot on salt. Avery smirked. It's about optics. If things go wrong, better a man takes the heat. That's just this town. So I labor, I said, and you get the keys. Dad's pastor voice cut in. Authority follows order. You'll be taken care of. And something in me walked out of my body, looked back and whispered, You are not crazy. This is. I understand, I said, meaning I was done. I cleared plates, smiled, said goodnight, and stepped into the cold that throws water in your face and calls it love. The next morning I ran the shop as usual, apron tied, sign flipped, orders handled, while Avery showed up late and took credit for deals I'd made. A woman cried over napkins I sold her because they matched her grandmother's tablecloth, and I thought, I am good at this. So good I'll die here if I keep doing it for people who don't see me. At lunch, I called a storage unit, a boutique owner in the city, an apartment 3 towns over, and a therapist whose card I'd carried for years. One box at a time, I began leaving. When I finally told my parents, Mom blinked like the mail had been canceled. Dad said, Pray first, which meant no. Avery hugged me smugly. You'll be back. You need this place. But silence is sometimes the last courtesy you give the past. So I left.